Hey, what's going on everyone? AMR here again. So in today's video, we're going to be talking a little bit about the weight loss that we started in episode 1, which there is a link right here. So we are going to try and think differently about the way that we perceive food. So when I was first starting out my weight loss journey, I I was weighing right around 310 pounds. I was eating probably, if I had to go back and estimate it now, probably close to about 8,500 calories a day, which is well above the daily nutritional average, which is 2,000 calories. The biggest obstacle that you have to try and get past when you're talking about changing the way you think about food is understanding that there's a difference between, going to bed hungry and going to bed satisfied. Right now, a lot of people struggle with the idea of when to stop eating versus you've had enough and you no longer need to keep eating. So it's no issue that Americans struggle with obesity. I think that that's kind of been going on for the last probably 20, 30 years is when it's really, really gotten bad. The biggest thing that helped me understand how I was overeating was taking out a piece of paper and actually logging out what I'd ate in a day. So it takes a lot of really hard discipline to stick to a diet, but it takes even more discipline to log your diet. There's a lot of room for discretion, and you could definitely cheat the system and say I only had a handful of pretzels. Some people have pretty big hands, like myself included. I just the other day was portioning out how many pretzels I should have just as for a snack on these pretzels that I normally eat. A serving size is 22 pretzels. In my hand, I had 32 pretzels. So that should tell you that even though you're only grabbing a handful of something does not necessarily mean that that is not less than a serving size. So going through the effort and the steps to actually take time out of your day to log and commit to the system. If you continue to log out your food and keep track of it, the weight loss actually becomes fairly simple, and you're doing two things at the same time. You are, one, becoming aware of what you're putting in your body, and two, you are establishing a new routine of what you need to be eating versus what you are eating. I would highly recommend that you log out what you're eating for 3 weeks. So they say that 3 weeks, roughly 21 days, is how long it takes to break a habit or make a habit. So in this case, we're going to be making a habit. We're going to be training our body of what we deem acceptable versus not acceptable to be putting in our body and how much of it. We're doing a couple of things. So first off, we are training ourselves that this is what we should and should not be eating. 2, we should also be seeing results at that same time. So we're seeing how our body reacts to eating certain foods at a certain amount versus eating other foods at a lesser amount. So the biggest thing that a person can do when they are on a diet is reward themselves, but not over reward themselves. So what that means is if you're on a diet and you stick to it strictly for Monday through Friday, right? And that includes from the time you wake up on Monday morning until the time you go to bed on Friday night. Not by the time you go into work on Monday and the time that you get off of work. That doesn't start your weekend then. If you stick strictly to your diet for 5 straight days, that leaves 2 days. Typically, people like to account for those on Saturday and Sunday, where you can allow yourself one cheat meal per day. That does not mean that you go to Olive Garden and you get the tour of Italy, which is like 2,700 calories for your cheat meal. No, what this means is that you save up all of that time throughout the week, you start thinking about what you want to reward yourself with, and then you go out and then you get that. Now you're going to be the ultimate judge as to whether or not the calories that you're putting in your body is worth all the effort you put in throughout the week. So again, these are like these small little things that you are trying to manage on your end. Personally, what I like to do is Monday through Friday, I like to try and establish some type of a routine that I'm eating. Every morning, I'll get up, I'll have a banana or 2 with peanut butter. So I really, really like peanut butter. I think that it's probably better than chocolate in my opinion. I eat it with apples, bananas, peanut butter and jelly, all that kind of stuff. Peanut butter is really, really easy to get out of hand though. So what I try to do is just have enough peanut butter to fill up the entire tip of a blade on a knife, and then I spread that across on the banana, and then I eat the banana. I dip back into the peanut butter and go on and so forth. Now, if you have to share peanut butter in the house and you think that it's gross that you're, taking a knife and then wiping it on a banana that you've already eaten off of, totally fine. I understand that. Just get another peanut butter. I mean, it's not that bad of it. You can get them at Costco in like a pack of 2. But yeah, that's kind of like my guilty pleasure. Peanut butter is very fatty, so you have to be careful with it. But it kind of is like that savory thing that you're not feeling like you're losing out on some of like the joys in life when you're eating. So peanut butter is a great go-to, especially in the morning, as long as you pair it with something healthy. I would highly recommend that you avoid putting peanut butter on like an English muffin or a bagel in the morning, because that's not only a fatty spread, but it's also a lot of carbs on a piece of bread. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Now, for lunch, I'm not really much of a lunch person in terms of like trying to fill up on lunch. So what I like to do is I just like to go and throw together like a salad. I'll put in about 1.5 serving of chicken. So I load up on the protein because I work out a lot, and so I need the protein in order to continue to fulfill my workouts and not feel depleted halfway through. For those of you that don't know, I do have a running playlist on the channel, link to it up here. So yeah, I load up on the chicken. I usually put a half a serving of cheese, half a serving of ranch, lettuce, and then half a serving of croutons. And that typically is enough to get you through the rest of your day until it's time to eat your dinner. So now when it comes time for your dinner, it's totally up to you what you want to do for this. I typically like to overindulge on the proteins rather than the fats. And so what I'll end up doing is I'll have like a lot of chicken, I'll have a lot of steak. It's definitely more of like a red meat type diet. But again, if you're starting to eat healthy, you're not eating 2.5 servings of this stuff. You're eating like 1 to 1.5 servings. So it's just enough to make up for those extra carbs that you're not getting because you're not overeating anymore. But at the same time, it's not going to do too much to like your overall health. Everything can be detrimental in large quantities. So at 1.5 servings, totally doable, especially if you're taking it easy on your lunch and breakfast. And then I also have a rule where if it's past 11 o'clock at night, then I can't eat anything. What I can do is I can have like a cup of ice water or some type of a drink, typically or preferably something that's not like carbonated, because carbonated has high fructose corn syrup in it, and a lot of that gets transferred into sugars, which gets stored as fat. So you have to be careful with that as well. Even on those labels that say like this is 0 sugar, this is 0 calories, whatever, there's really nothing that's truly 0 unless you're drinking like water. So be careful and mindful of that. Everyone's going to have their own opinions, and I'm sure that there'll be plenty of people that want to refute this and whatever, but realistically, water is the best option for you. I typically like to chew on ice. I know it's terrible for your teeth, and like I said, there's some things in life that are like people's vices, and chewing on ice just happens to be one of mine. It's also kind of like a nice way to feel like you're full, because you're getting not only the water from the cup of ice water, but also the ice that kind of acts as like a temporary solid in your stomach, if that makes sense. And so what you'll notice when you're starting to eat healthier is a couple of things. So in the mornings, you typically will be able to feel a little more energized, which will kind of create this domino effect where you wake up in the morning, you're energized, you want to stick to the diet because you're getting better results. You'll feel more energized for work or whatever it is that you do. You will start to want to work out because now you're starting to lose weight. You're starting to not have like that groggy, just takes me an hour and a half to wake up in the morning kind of feeling. And it just kind of like snowballs from there. So as long as you're starting to eat healthy, you are doing at least something in the right direction. In future videos, we'll talk about developing a routine that works for you based on a few different things that you currently do in life. I'll probably give like 3 or 4 different scenarios talking about different body shapes, different types of people versus like different times in people's lives, if they're having kids, if they've already had kids, like those kind of things. But today's video is really focused around how we're trying to perceive food and how we should be eating it as a whole. So with that in mind, we do need to talk a little bit about the daily nutritional facts being right around 2,000 calories per day for the average person. Now pay attention to what I said there. It's for the average person, which means that I don't know what that means. Like I don't know what the average person is. Is it like a 5'2" female? Is it which technically I don't think is even average for a female height. So there's a lot of things that they kind of throw in our face without really explaining to us what it really is. So I think you just need to have a realistic approach to understand how you need to be eating. So typically, in order for you to gain 1 pound a day, you have to consume 3,500 calories on top of whatever you're burning off. So if you burn off 1,500 calories in a day and you eat 5,000 calories, you will, in a sense, have gained 1 pound for the day. So whenever you are deciding to start to work out and all that kind of, and those kind of things where you're burning calories, whether it be just walking on the treadmill, taking the dog for a walk, whatever. By the way, I strongly recommend getting some type of a smartwatch or some type of an application on your phone or tablet, whatever you do that you can carry around with you while you're exercising that will track your calories per step, minute, whatever. I actually have the Garmin Forerunner 235. It's a fantastic watch. It's very accurate, one of the more accurate GPS readers that I've had in the past. I had the iFit, or in the past I've had like a Fitbit, and the Fitbit definitely did an okay job, but there was plenty of times where I would do like an official race, and the race was 13.1 miles, and then I'd finish the race and it would say like I finished with 11.2 miles, and I'm like, there's just no way, this thing is off. Garmin Forerunner is pretty much always within 0.1 miles of like either more or less. And as far as like the battery life, totally good. This is not sponsored by Garmin or anything like that, but it is definitely super important to understand that there are these utilities, especially free utilities out there. Like there's applications in your phone that can track this type of stuff. And then you take that data of how many calories you are burning off, and then you translate that to, okay, how much can I eat in a day before I start to put on that extra pound? So if you want to be losing weight, then you need to be consuming less calories than you're burning. So if you burn 3,500 calories in a day and you consume 4,000, you're not going to gain a pound necessarily, but you are still going to be gaining an incremental amount of weight. Whereas if you only had 3,000 calories and you burn 3,500, now we're talking. Now you're 500 calories in the deficit. Small little baby steps like that go a very, very long way. And then lastly, I want to go ahead and touch on this too. There are certain things in life that people have to take into account when it comes to weight loss. Currently, right now, I'm on a medication that makes me retain weight. So I am not your typical like male in his mid-20s where I can go out, I can eat whatever I want. If I work out a little bit, I lose it. That's not really the case for me. I have something that's slowing down my metabolism a lot. So I run anywhere between 6 and 8 miles every single day. And I still see periods of times where I plateau at 220. So it really does depend on other outside factors as well. You have to take that into account. You have to understand that there's other things outside of just what you're consuming and how you're exercising. But also, like, there's certain types of foods that will retain a whole lot more than other foods. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make when it comes to trying to lose weight is starving themselves. So one of the most common misconceptions about skipping meals is that, if I skip a meal, then I'm actually going to be hungry and therefore I'll be losing weight. In actuality, what's happening in your body is you are starving yourself so that way the next time that you do give it, it's going to try and retain that as much as possible. So what you're actually doing is you are tricking your body into thinking that you need to retain more food the next time that you consume it, which means that you're probably not going to be losing weight, you're just going to be plateauing quite a bit. So again, the key here is not to be under eating, but to be eating steadily the right amount. So I really hope that helps. As always, feel free to comment down below with a couple of suggestions about future videos that you'd like to see, or things that you wish I would have elaborated more on, so that way I can take that stuff into account into possibly a future video. As always, I hope you liked today's content. If you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a ton.